What up, it's primetime rappin'. We got our challenger over here.
Hello, my name is Dark Souls 3.
Boy, it ain't 2016 no more. It's time for you to meet the king. Okay, whatever Dark Souls, let's get into our big boy over here, the newest kid on the block, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice.
最初に、私は、魂のゲームではありません。First of all, I have no multiplayer, so stop summoning me. Second of all, I not souls game, so stop spamming A1 at me. I about to destroy this man's pasture metal.
What career?
Boom. Bam. Bop. Badabap. Pow.
Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. I think that Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is shaping up to be one of the best games From Software has ever produced, if not the best. Why do I think that? Well, there are a few reasons. Dark Souls and its sequels and spin-offs are so iconic primarily because, even if you think it's a meme, it is, its difficulty. Now, I don't care how tough you think you are, but I'm sure you had some difficulty with Dark Souls the first time. Now, that's not a crime to admit. In fact, your ability to overcome that challenge was the reason why you enjoyed it so much. You had to master the role, the timing of the combat, the layout of the game world. So much time goes into the skill set to turn the difficulty of Dark Souls or Demon Souls or Bloodborne into a pleasurable and fun experience. Now, this is where Sekiro comes in and why it could potentially be so great. With Sekiro, the game design team have made it clear that while some elements may be reminiscent of the Souls series like the camera movement, parts of the combat, and navigation, entire elements are different this time around. Think of this, I and probably many of you have the cycle of this approach burned into our brains. Approach enemy, dodge attack, spam the attack key, it's just burnt into our psyche. I feel like if we try and do that in Sekiro, it just flat out won't work, and it will feel like we're trying to use a limb that isn't even there anymore. Just like the shinobi, we will have to learn how to reuse this limb, our skill set all over again, to not simply dodge an attack, but deflect, 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 execute. Now, some of us may have experience in this realm with parrying in Dark Souls, but we are largely unsure about how fair the deflect aspect of this game is. Is it forgiving, or is it precise? Keep in mind that the parry system in Bloodborne was very forgiving. Enemies telegraphed their attacks well in advance, and they were often in a slashing motion, which was quite easy to line up for a parry. In terms of Sekiro, it seems like it's a bit different. There are enemies that wield spears, which, in my experience, are harder to parry as the strike comes directly at you rather than at an angle, and even the whole dodging element has changed. It is my understanding that there is no all-purpose dodge, but rather different dodge moves for different instances. For example, there is a dash, but it may not work for an enemy that is lunging at you. You may be forced to jump over them instead, or if an enemy has an undeflectable attack, you will have to dash towards them specifically. This will force you, the player, to completely rethink the way you approach combat. I'm sure that fact is very obvious to most of you, but you should really consider the scope of that. People who played Dark Souls picked up Bloodborne and found that the skill set transferred across very easily, while this time around, Souls vets will pick up the controller to play Sekiro and may be very surprised that the knowledge they had built up over years of playing Dark Souls might become relatively useless to them. Seasoned Souls streamers and content creators have relayed the fact that Sekiro is hard, even for them. While this may seem daunting to the rest of us... hold up. Pause. From Software, what the fuck? Are you telling me that you shipped all these people out to Japan to play this game and didn't even ask me? Unbelievable. Disgusting. I'm genuinely upset and feel betrayed about this. Miyazaki, I thought we were friends. Anyway, while that may seem daunting to us, don't be dismayed. People in the last year or two are fascinated by the idea of Souls-likes, games that replicated elements of Dark Souls without completely ripping off the idea I think there is a fundamental issue here because now that people are playing bits of Sekiro, I have to think that the direction of Souls-likes was pretty off. People don't want another grimdark hack and slash. I think what they wanted was a game that respected the player in a sincere way and wasn't afraid to challenge them. So many games are afraid of doing this to their player bases, while From Software has consistently shown that they just don't really care. They don't care if you don't get through the first area, they don't care if you don't finish the first boss, they want you to push yourself. And Sekiro, it looks like it aims to continue this trend, which I for one am very happy about. Now, why else does Sekiro look like it could be the best From Software game yet, or at least in the top 3? I say that little part as a disclaimer because obviously From has already set the bar so high for themselves. Well, one aspect of game design which I would say might have a positive effect is the lack of multiplayer. I'm sure that there are many of you that were quite dismayed when they learned that there would be no multiplayer at all in Sekiro, but upon closer examination the gameplay it honestly makes sense, and if there was multiplayer included, you can see why the whole flow and feel of the game would have had to be drastically changed. Just think, how would you adequately talk to the other player if they didn't have a mic to navigate a stealth section? And if you could communicate, wouldn't it become easy to just cheese entire areas and get the enemies to chase one player around while the other assassinates the rest? Plus it wouldn't really fit in with the story, I imagine. You would essentially end up with a different game. Now, that we know that Sekiro is a solo adventure, it does give us a lot to look forward to. You have a central, isolated focal point on the character, Sekiro, or the shinobi, and are told a very personal story. This much has been implied from the trailers and seems like for the first time you are not given a blank slate to roleplay with. Now, my inner RPG fan recoiled a bit when I heard about this for the first time. No other weapons, no fashion. It was unthinkable for a Souls game to lack these things. I think I would still enjoy cosmetic changes, but for the rest of it, it's understood why it is the way it is. Suddenly you have to consider the character of the shinobi as a man with a past, a way of life, a system of beliefs, and convictions. Why would he be switching in and out of different outfits and using weapons he's unfamiliar with? The only reason would be as a disguise, which to be honest does sound pretty cool, but in general his character seems to be a quiet man of action, eager to avenge the kidnapping of his young master. Also, since it is a single-player game, it means you'll be able to say with certainty that you beat this game by yourself without help. I know that many of you have probably done this, but I'll never forgive myself for caving and eventually summoning a helper to aid me in defeating Ludwig the Accursed for the first time. I just couldn't put up with him destroying me over and over and over again and got Voltaire into the fight with me in the end. In retrospect, I should never have done this, but now it's too late, and now I know that when I beat Sekiro, it will be my triumph, and I think that's a great thing. All that being said, I do hope there is something similar to Covenants, but from a single player point of view. I was always frustrated with Covenants in the Souls games, and can say that they never really added to the gameplay experience. I hope this has changed in Sekiro. One more thing. I think From Software have one more trick up their sleeve that it is in their ability now to use the twist. Unfortunately for me, the twist in Bloodborne, with the game going from dark Victorian horror to cosmic body horror, was spoiled for me, by my own hand admittedly. It does make you think about what Sekiro could have in store for us. If you've watched the gameplay release so far and all the little tidbits, there does seem to be something supernatural lurking between this more historically grounded game and what From Software could potentially put in to surprise us. What will that be? Who can know? All I know is I'm very excited to see what they bring to the table. One more thing is that we are getting a stealth game done by From Software. I'm a big fan of stealth games and I feel like we haven't got a good one in a long time. I was never really charmed by the Hitman series, but growing up I had a love for Splinter Cell and any other games who were able to pull off this sense of hiding and striking so effortlessly. I'm unsure whether From can execute this well, but I really hope they do. Another factor to consider is that they've never really tried doing sword play in a duel sense before. It's mostly been down to timing and seeing which character can damage the other the most and the fastest, while Sekiro will have a focus on one-on-one engagements. In my opinion, this sort of battle is where From Software excels, and I can't wait to see how they pull all these pieces together. I don't know. I feel like when you consider everything that From Software has pulled off so far, they've really shown their capability to continue to up the scales. That is not to say that every entry in their games library has been perfect, they haven't been, but I think we can all agree that they have always tried to push the limits and always create a memorable experience. I just hope that Sekiro can be the synthesis of all that talent and we can see the best product that they've ever made.